Welcome to the Phil Tourney podcast. This is our first show. We had a couple teasers out about the new podcast. Today, I'm very pleased to have with me your shipmate and friend, Micky Lemay. And thank you for coming on, Micky.
Oh, glad to be here, Phil.
Okay, great. We're going to start off a little bit different, Micky. Let's kind of go back to the beginning. Where were you born at?
I was born in Rumford, Maine in 1944 on November 10th.
1944, okay. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have one brother and two sisters. My brother is deceased.
I see. Okay, and your parents, I know, are gone.
Yes.
Okay, and do you keep in close contact with them, or
With my
with your
two
siblings?
sisters, I keep very close contact with, yes.
Okay, good. That's always nice to have family ties,
Correct.
but where'd you go to school?
I went to elementary school in Newton, Massachusetts, and graduated from Newton South High in 1963.
1963, okay. What was your schooling like?
I think it was typical for people back in the 50s and 60s. You know, I had a bunch of friends. We played our ball down the ballpark, whether it be football or baseball or skating or whatever we did. We did a lot together with friends.
That's good. So you had a good, steady household, and you had a lot of friends.
Correct, right.
Okay. Well, okay, you get out of high school. What makes you join the Navy?
Well, I tried college, and I had to take a preparatory course, which meant I delayed college for a year. And I did
Yeah.
one semester of it and found out that college was not for me. So when I finally quit going to college, I decided to join the Navy, which I joined in February 4th, 1964, and went to
February
boot
went
camp
the
up
4th?
in Great Lakes.
Yeah. I joined on February the 6th, 1964. That's crazy.
Wow,
Yeah, same month.
2 days
I
apart.
went to boot camp. Yeah, I went to boot camp in San Diego, and you went to Great Lakes. Did you
Correct.
go in the winter or the summer?
Yeah, it was colder than witches, whatever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know it gets cold up there. I was
Yeah.
glad I didn't go to Great Lakes. But how'd you do in boot camp?
I thought it was a waste of time. I love Boy Scouts, so the military procedure wasn't a big change for me as far as I was concerned. I did go to A school in the summertime up at Great Lakes, where I became an electrician. And then when I got out of school, I was transferred to Norfolk, Virginia to be on the USS Vulcan, which is a repair tender stationed in Norfolk, Virginia.
Right. Now, when were you on the Vulcan?
Well, that was in, I think, maybe till August or September of 64.
Okay.
It was out at sea. It was up in the North Atlantic. I missed that cruise because I went on Liberty after boot camp. I think I had to wait till like 2 weeks for it to get back in, and then I was stationed on it for about a year and a half.
Yeah, the Vulcan and the Amphion were basically welded to the piers. They didn't go out to sea much, so you missed the cruise on the Vulcan.
I missed the first cruise that I'd love to have gone because I never got to go to the North Atlantic. I heard that's quite a good cruise up there. Rough seas, but beautiful.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing. I was on the Amphion waiting to get on the Liberty before it's coming back from the first cruise.
Okay.
So you got on the Liberty in 1966?
On the Liberty, I got, May of 1966. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was already,
cruise.
the May cruise. That was the second cruise.
I think it was the second cruise for the ship. Totally, yes.
Okay. All right. So the captain then was, when I was aboard there first, was D.D. Wyland. Do you remember him?
No, I don't. Although the only thing I really remember on that first cruise was crossing the equator.
Yeah. Well, that was a joyous time. Yeah, we always had fun doing that. In fact, I think I paddled your little rear end a little bit because I was already a shellback.
Right.
But that was a fun time. And on the Liberty, what were your duties?
Okay, I was the electrician's mate on the final cruise. I was the electrician in charge of the electrical department, which supplied electricity to everybody on the ship. My duty station was the generators just outside the engine room in the spy section of our ship.
Right. Well, we were both in engineering, which was good. I liked it. But, in engineering, that ship couldn't go anywhere not unless we did our job. They got their hot water from us. They got their drinkable water from us. They got their clothes washed for them, for all of us. Everybody had a different job. But without the engineers, the ship is dead in the water.
Correct.
So that was the heart of that was the heart and soul of the ship, and it was a rough job. I know I was down the hole for the first cruise I was aboard the Liberty. I got transferred up to shipfitter shop, which I
Mhm.
enjoyed more because I was up on top of the deck and not in all that damn heat. But it worked out all for the best. And the first cruise you went on, where'd we go?
Well, we went into Dakar as our first port, which seemed to be what we did normally, anyways. Took us 7 days, I believe, if I remember right, to go from Norfolk to Dakar. And then
Right.
we'd hit different
Yeah.
ports along the west coast as we went up and down the whole west coast of Africa.
Well, why would we do that? Why were we going up and down the coast of Africa?
Well, the ship was what we called a spy ship, but it was more of an intelligent information gathering ship, I guess is what it really was. I know I went down into the secured section of the ship a number of times to repair a battle lantern or some electrical problems down there, and I'd be escorted before I got into the front door. And as I went down, every door would be closed, and the room that I went in was covered with sheets or something, so I couldn't see what was in these rooms. So I had no idea what these guys were doing.
That reminds me. I went down there and had to weld up some flat iron where they could keep their books on top. You know where I'm talking about,
Yeah,
on the beams there. And the same thing when I went down there, everything was covered up. I wouldn't know what I was looking at anyway.
correct. Me
Didn't
either.
have a
I
clue.
would have had no idea. It wouldn't have mattered to me.
No, it wouldn't matter to me. I just know it was secret. And there were two different crews aboard the ship. Why don't you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, we had the ship's crew, which is engineering. That was us supplying anything that the spy section of the ship needed, whether it be electricity, like you said, or washing their clothes. It didn't matter. We were there to give them what they needed to do the job they were doing. And then the ship
Yeah.
for 3 months would go up and down the west coast of Africa. And I just assumed the spies were listening to information coming off the beach, which is the west coast of Africa. I don't know for sure, but that was my assumption.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe you're exactly right. And we didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't share it with us. We didn't talk to them, they didn't talk to us. And I'm sure you went through the same thing.
Well, I know we wanted to talk to them, but we were there. We thought they were above us, or they thought they were above us, and didn't have to communicate with us. And I was kind of ticked off at them. And a couple of the guys would say, "Oh, we got bowling alleys down there, and all of this crap to make us feel worse."
Yeah,
But they did their teasing, we did our teasing, but we never did socializing together, which at the time I thought was really unusual. But now, knowing what the ship did, I can understand why they weren't allowed to talk to us.
absolutely. And were you married or engaged or anything at that time?
No, I got married the week before we went on our cruise when I got transferred from the Balkan. I went home, got married to my first wife, and a week later we were on our way to Africa for the first time for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now the last cruise. Take me through that. What'd you see? What'd you think?
Well, the last cruise was interesting. No different from when, as far as I was concerned, from we left port. I know we had that I can't remember what the thing is called, where they could bounce signals off the moon, which made the ship
Yeah,
top
Trescom.
heavy. And I
Yeah.
know we were going. I think we were still in Hatteras area, Cape Hatteras, and I was in my bunk, and the ship started listing to one side, and I can remember praying, "Please come back, because if we go much further, we're not going to make it." And then the ship came
I
back, and
know.
it was fine. But I
Yeah,
do
that was
remember that. That was the different thing for me on the last cruise.
Yeah. Well, Cape Hatteras was always I always had that vision in my mind, the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
And we went right through that. And it was always a different deal. But okay, we get into Abidjan. And how long were we there?
I don't think we were there a full day before we got the word we got to get ready to get underway.
Yeah.
Of course, I only heard scuttlebutt, and I did hear we were heading into the Mediterranean.
Right. We didn't know why, though, did we?
No, I had no idea at all. Just that it was different than what we normally did.
Okay. Now, when the word came down for us to get out of Dodge, we left real fast for Rota, Spain. And
Correct.
I mean, that old ship was going as fast as it could too. Our boss, George Golden, and the crew down there, they really did a yeoman's job in getting that thing off. And
Right.
they took the governors off even to make that ship go faster.
Hmm.
That's how fast. Well, it was going about 18 miles an hour as fast as that thing would go.
Correct.
It looked like we were really moving, but for an old cargo ship, World War II cargo ship, converted into a spy ship,
Right.
brand new ship. It looked brand new. I thought it was brand new myself, but it was converted World War II. They called them one-wayers cargo ship. It was
Hmm.
called the Simmons Victory, and they renamed it when it got refurbished. It was a $40 million refurbishing job in Bremerton, Washington. I think that took almost a year to get that done. And then the people that were on there before I got aboard on the first cruise, the shakedown cruise, they went through it, and then they went to Africa, and that's when I picked up the ship with Captain D.D. Wyland, and I made one cruise with him. And you didn't know him,
No.
but he was a strange bird. He would take his M1 and fire it off, on the bridge, shooting at sharks and anything he could shoot, he would shoot.
Huh.
He just loved that. He used to love doing that. I mean, he was a good captain, don't get me wrong, but and then McGonigal, he came aboard. That was the only captain you knew. Yes. Okay, we leave. We picked up 3 linguists, 3 Marines, and 1 CIA type guy, NSA type guy, Alan Blue.
Hmm.
And there might have been another 1 or 2. I'm not sure. Can you recollect that?
No, I just remember the ones you just mentioned. Those are the ones I remember. And it was the first time on the year and a half or whatever it was that I've been on the ship that there was a Marine standing guard in front of the spy section of the ship.
Right.
Before
Right.
that, we
Yeah, it
never had
was.
an armed guard.
No, never did until that last cruise.
Correct.
And the 3 Marines that came on board, the only one that survived was Bryce Lockwood. The other 2 got blown up in the torpedo explosion, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself on that, but we'll go through the attack and what happened and why it happened and many other things to follow. But let's take it a step at a time. Going back to, let's say, the 7th of June when we got on station off the Sinai Peninsula. It was always
Okay.
in international waters, 12.5 miles off the coast.
Right.
You remember the 7th of June when we got there? Did you see any?
Well, once you get into the Med, it was totally different than what we had seen off the west coast of Africa. We would
Absolutely.
see surveillance planes every now and then fly over. The closer we got to the Sinai, though, the more frequent we had planes flying over, I remember.
Right. Now, what planes were they?
Well, myself, I think I can only remember recognizing one Flag of David plane. They might have been more, but I never saw the star or anything like that. For some reason, I don't remember the markings on those planes that were just surveilling us.
Right. Well, they were marked clearly with the Star David. There was a flying boxcar, a DC-3,
Right.
and other smaller aircraft. You remember tipping their wings and we'd wave at them and
Well,
they'd wave
I
at
remember
us and
they were
wave back?
just plain gray planes. There was no fancy paintings on all of those. Those were just
Right.
look like typical military planes. Nothing
Yeah,
special about them.
absolutely.
They weren't
No.
a fighter or anything like that. They were just planes that were slow prop, not jets. They flew over us slowly. Yeah, very friendly people. They were always, like you said, tipping their wings and stuff like that. I was
Well,
never afraid we were going to be attacked.
no, I mean, Captain McGonigal asked for a destroyer escort even before we got in the area, and he was denied.
Correct.
Said,
That's
"You
what I
get
heard.
you're American, right? You're American. You got American flag. You're clearly marked. You have nothing to worry about it." Uh, and we're in a war zone, so to see the Israelis taking care of us, we thought it was a comforting feeling. We didn't know if the Arabs were going to come get us. Did you?
Well, I don't remember knowing what the media was saying. We'd get that, teletype or whatever the heck that little thing would come through on us. And if I remember right, it seemed like both sides were winning the little bit of information we got. Nothing stated that one side was dominating the other. But like I said, we didn't need the destroyer escort. According to what I heard, the admiral told him that he could have airstrike help with us within 12 minutes anywhere in the Mediterranean. That's why I heard
Right.
why we didn't get the destroyer escort.
Right. And then David Lewis, he was the head of the research department, Commander Lewis. He asked for a destroyer escort too and was denied.
That's what he said.
He
Yeah.
got the same response. Right. He got the same response as McGonigal did. You're clearly marked.
Right.
You have no reason to worry. And I might add, going entered that area, all the ships were going the other way, and we were the only ones going that way.
Correct.
They were getting the heck out of Dodge. They were leaving,
That's right.
and we were going right into it. We were all alone going right into a war. And we get there, and you remember seeing the bombs bursting on the beach,
Yeah, I remember
black smoke.
we had lunch. This is the day of the attack, and I was my office was just off the main deck. I could go out a hatch and be right on the railing on the outside starboard side of the ship, and I saw a big explosion on the beach. And then we had the
Yeah.
GQ drill happen, so I didn't get to see any more of it.
Right. Well, GQ drill was a chemical drill, and my GQ station was repair party forward. And I remember it so vividly. It's so hot out, and I'm in an impregnated suit, pretending like I'm washing down the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so hot, I thought I was going to pass out. I couldn't wait to get out of that thing. And it was a bright, beautiful day, 12 knots of wind coming across the deck. Flag was flying as usual. Well, we had a brand new 5x8 flag, beautiful flag, brand new. You could see it for miles, miles, and miles. And
Don't forget,
everybody
too,
knew
Phil,
who we were.
Phil, don't forget, too, our ship was unique. There was only 2 ships in the world that looked like us, our sister
Right.
ship and us. No other ship in the world looked
Bel-
like the Liberty did. It was a
No,
real
the
unique,
Belmont and us.
the most technically advanced, probably not only ship, whatever you want to call it, in the world. We had capabilities that you look back today saying, how could they do those technical things back in 67, 68? I mean, 67, 66. I mean, we were really quite the technical advanced vehicle.
Yeah, well, Admiral Moore said our ship was the easiest ship in the Navy to identify.
Correct.
It looked like a giant lobster with all the antennas sticking out from
Right.
it. That's the way he described it. And that's exactly what it looked like. I mean, we had antennas everywhere.
Right.
Okay, take us, after we secured from general quarters, then what'd you do?
Well, the general quarters was almost an hour like normal. I used to get really upset with the captain because he always gave us these darn GQ drills for different attacks. But at the time, it seemed like, what a waste of time. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy. I don't think any ship in the Navy did more GQ drills than we did. And thank God he was the captain he was, because you guys were trained unbelievable. And after the GQ was done, I was going to go up to the 04 level, which is on the superstructure, the last platform, the highest platform you can be on and still be on what you might call a deck. I was going to check
Right.
the carbon arc searchlight to see if it was okay. We had to do it every month. We had to go check it. And while I was up there, I also wanted to look at the beach. Of course, we had moved 15 miles down the coast or some distance. Where I had seen the explosion, I wouldn't be able to see anymore. But I wanted to see if there was any more going on the beach. And as I was getting to the 04 level, climbing the ladder, there was a fighter. It was a French Mirage, I believe, fighter flying the same way we're maybe 40, 50 feet above us. I didn't wave at the pilot, but I could have. Now, this plane did not have any markings on it. And it looked like it was camouflaged with what I see on the tanks in the Mideast today, that type of camouflage, sandy-looking colors. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I went on the Intrepid in New York City, the aircraft carrier, and I saw the exact same plane on the deck. It looked just like the plane I had seen that day. It was totally unmarked, and I turned to the lieutenant up there. I think his job was to identify any planes that flew over us. So I turned to him and I said, "Did you see that fighter, sir?" And he goes, "No." "Where?" So I walked over to him and as I turned to point to the plane I saw, that's when the first strafing came. And it came from starboard to port, bow to stern, diagonally across the ship.
Okay, now when this happened and you saw the jet fighters unmarked and they started strafing the ship, you were still on the 04 level.
I was on the 04 level, and that's where I was hit the first time.
Okay. And I think you were talking about Lieutenant Toth.
Correct.
Yeah. And he got blown to bits. He got cut in half, didn't he? Got a direct hit on him. Killed him instantly.
I know with me, when I saw him, we were both standing looking eye to eye after the first strafing. And I looked down me, and I had blood coming out of every part of my body, and he looked the exact same thing. Now, the last time I saw him, we were looking in each other's eyes, and I says, "I'm getting the heck out of here." And I turned and ran to the ladder, and I thought he was behind me. I hit the ladder, slid down to the 03 level where I could get inside the superstructure. And when I got inside, the portholes have all been shattered. The glass was all over the floor and all that. And that's when my body realized that my left leg had been shattered, and I fell to the deck because I couldn't stand anymore. So I'm assuming it was adrenaline that got me into where I was safer than where I was originally. Wasn't safe because they were using armor-pierced bullets. No place inside the ship was totally safe.
No, there wasn't a spot on that ship that was safe.
Correct.
Like you say, the armor-piercing bullets, the cannons, and the rockets. And of course, this went on for 25 minutes. Okay, you're on the bridge. You went into the bridge, right?
I'm just above it.
With the cap just above
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So I
And
fall on the deck. I crawl through a hatch, and there's a ladder that I crawl head first down to get deeper into the ship. And as I'm coming around in officers' country, so I think officers' country was just behind the bridge, wasn't it?
yes,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm crawling around the corner, and our shipmate Timmerman sees me, and he says, "Hey, you hurt?" And of course, there's blood coming everywhere. It's unbelievable. And I look up at him, and I honestly said to him, "No, I like crawling on the deck." And we both laughed. We really did laugh at that stupid comment.
what else could you do at
Well,
that
then
point?
he put a tourniquet on my leg. Evidently, I was bleeding quite badly. And he says, "I can't get you to sick bay by myself. I'm going to go get help." So he left. And I think I passed out one or two times before he got back. They put me in a stretcher. I remember them doing that. They started carrying me. And as we went around the corner to go down another ladder to get deeper into the ship, the corpsman came by and said, "Take the tourniquet off his leg. We don't want him to lose it." And they put me down on the deck, and he started to untie the tourniquet, and that's when a rocket came through the overhead. I'm 2 decks inside the superstructure, and I can see blue sky. And the only smoke I remember is that white smoke or cloud going by the hole that the rocket came through. Now, they said the guy untying the tourniquet from me had a hole in his wrist from whatever came through the bulkhead. And that was the only time where I thought we were really going to die. There was no place safe in the ship, it felt to me at that point.
No.
And then I
there
blanked
was no
out,
place
and the
safe.
next time I woke up, I was in the mess decks, which they turned into sick bay on a table on a mattress.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of men in the mess decks, wounded, shot up. Everywhere you could put a body, you could put one on the deck,
Mhm.
on tables, everywhere. And how badly were you wounded?
Well, I ended up being the second most seriously injured that survived. I still have 52 pieces of shrapnel in me. I don't know how many they've taken out. I was on board after the attack had ended. Okay, let's stay with the attack before I go into that, okay?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I remember being on the table, waking up, blanking out, waking up, blanking out. And I remember waking up, and they came over the PA system or whatever you call it, prepare for a torpedo attack. I remember hearing that. I don't remember the torpedo hitting. I'm thinking I blanked out or I just forgot that moment, because no matter how hard I try, I can't remember. And the way you guys described it, if I had experienced, I don't think I would have forgotten. So I think I blanked
No.
out when it hit. And then I do remember hearing "prepare to abandon ship." And that's when the ship, well, I'm assuming, was listing, and they thought we were going to turn over. And
Right.
I remember also cancel abandon ship. And I assumed at that time that it was just because the ship wasn't going to sink. I didn't realize what was going on up on deck with you guys when you were throwing life rafts over the side.
Right. Now, let's back up during the 25 minutes or 30 minutes of the air attack. They had taken out every tuning antenna on that ship on the first pass.
With
They
the
took out
exception of one, right?
Yeah, with the exception of one, because it wasn't tuned. Terry Haldebardier took it offline, and it wasn't tuning. So they missed it because they're using heat-seeking missiles. And as you know, those tuners, they could dial right in on it.
Right.
And they did. They got them all except the one he took out. The really weird part is that we did get a message out, thanks to Terry, before the attack was even over in the 25-minute span.
Right.
Rockstar, under attack by unknown jet aircraft. Send help. Rockstar, under attack. And that was picked up as far as way of Vietnam. They picked it up to 6th Fleet.
Correct.
And Captain Tully off the America sent aircraft to come help us immediately. We were still being attacked by air.
Correct.
And McNamara recalled the aircraft. He says, "Do not help Liberty. Return to base. Return to base."
Correct.
So they turned them around. They went back to base. And all of a sudden, the America and the Saratoga launched again. and I believe it was Admiral Geiss. He wanted to go. He wanted the next higher command, and that would be President Johnson. And President Johnson got on the line. Says, "I don't give a GD if we over a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally."
Correct.
How did he know Israel was attacking us when we didn't?
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So they knew exactly what was going on. They left us out there to have the Israelis do what they want to with us, and they did everything they could to sink the ship. And when the air attack was over, we thought maybe, hey, listen, maybe it's over, correct? Okay. And then the torpedo boats came, and they had the Star of David on them. And we thought it was a good deal. I know you couldn't see any of this. You were flat on your back,
Correct.
close to death. But torpedo boats weren't there to help us. They were there to kill the rest of us.
Right.
And that attack lasted another hour and a half. And I know you were in and out of it, and you didn't remember the torpedo hitting, so you were really out of it. I can
Right.
see why. A loss of blood, the way you were damaged. To be honest with you, I didn't give you a snowball's hell and chance of living that night.
That's
You
what
were
you
one
all
of the
told
most
me
seriously
15
wounded.
years later at our first reunion.
I know it, man.
You
It
guys
was
made me
crazy.
feel unbelievably wonderful.
Yeah, I know it. It's well, here you had Tom Riley. He was one of the most severely wounded too, and
Right.
he had a 5-gallon bucket of haze gray paint, and this is during the first few seconds of the attack, and he got hit too, and he was wrapped in haze gray paint. It's the only thing that saved him from bleeding to death, because he was sealed up. It was so hot out there. He was sealed up. Thank God he was. He survived it, but his life was cut short because of it,
Well, the lead paint,
that
I mean, he
attack.
was carrying the red lead paint we put on the ship that got all
Right.
into his blood. It saved him from bleeding to death, but it probably ended up killing him in the end.
He had a lot of problems, Tom did,
Mm-hmm.
mentally and physically. Okay, the attack continued for an hour and a half, as I said. And I want to get this exactly right so you know exactly what happened, because I know you've done a lot of different deals, podcasts, and you were in Sacrificing Liberty. Remember when we got together for that
Correct.
and got that started. In fact, it was you, me, and Larry Bowen and Bobby Scarborough.
Right.
We were the first ones. They invited us out. I remember calling you guys and handpicking you. And I said, "Don't tell anybody else about this." Do you remember that?
Yep.
Because I didn't want us to get treated like we've been treated, especially by our own government. Anyway, I'm just going to run through this, not real fast, but the torpedo boats circled and circled the ship, shooting armor-piercing bullets at us, armor-piercing bullets everywhere, cannons. They would shoot anything that moved, as you well know. So they wanted us all dead, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It fired 5 torpedoes at us. Miraculously, only one hit, and that was only by the grace of God. But the torpedo picked the ship up completely out of the water and slammed it back down, and it rolled right to the right side, to the starboard side of the ship. It rolled over about, 10 degrees. I thought it was going to roll over, but just stopped. And they continued the attack with the torpedo boats. And as you said, the captains had prepared to abandon ship. There was only 3 life rafts left. Out of all the life rafts on that ship, there was enough life rafts for 294 souls. Everybody aboard that ship, there was enough life rafts for all of us. We only had 3 left. They went over the side, and the Israeli gunboats shot them out of the water. They shot 2 out of the water and took 1 aboard the boat as a trophy of the kill. So there weren't meant to be any survivors.
That's right.
No survivors at all.
Tom Woolen, which I didn't know until I think last year or the year before, just recently, he was telling me. Now, Tom Woolen was the barber on board the ship during the attack. And he said, which none of you guys you might have told me, but I don't remember you telling me, that the torpedo boats were shooting armor-piercing bullets just below the water level to try to get more water into the ship to sink you guys. You had over 5,000 holes along the ship that you had to patch with plugs so that we wouldn't sink. I didn't know that until just recently.
Yeah, and
How can these boats circle a ship with GTR 5 on the bow, and I think the 5 was a 10-foot letter and the other letters were like 6. On the stern we had GTR 5 and maybe 4-foot letters, and the 5 was maybe 6. In between it was Liberty in English.
Yeah,
the word Liberty. How can you circle a ship and think it's not what it really is?
Well, absolutely. And they shot down 2 flags, Mickey.
Right.
And then I believe it was, I forget the signalman's name, but he hoisted a 7x13, our holiday colors.
Well, that was Joe, right? Meadows?
Joe, and I forget the other guy's name.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just Joe.
Might have been just Joe. It could have been, but Joe was the signalman, of course, and he took care of the flags. But you could see that flag for miles and miles and miles. And they said we were never having it. We never had a flag on our ship. We always flew a flag, especially going into a war
We've
zone.
never been without one. The captain went by the book. Whatever the book said, he did.
Yeah, he was by the book, no doubt.
Pain in the butt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was a good ship, but a lot of discipline. He demanded that.
If
He
he
demanded
wasn't
the
the
best.
stickler he was, we would have sunk. You guys
More than
were
likely.
trained so good.
Yeah, we were lucky. We had a lot of training. I got to go to several firefighting schools and things like that, which I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I liked it. I liked doing that. I liked being part of that group of people in damage control. I really enjoyed that. But that wasn't I wasn't classified as a damage controlman. The only person on there was Jim Smith, Smitty. He
Oh,
was the
okay.
only true damage controlman, but his damage control station was in the mid part of the ship. Mine was forward.
Hmm.
So once they shot the life rafts up, you probably didn't know this either. And then they finally left. They sent troop-carrying helicopters over to finish us off. They had the Star of David on them. There were Marines on the skid ready to come get us. I thought they were going to, shimmy down through a rope or ladder, however they were going to get down. But they could have had their way with us then, but all of a sudden they left. I believe what they did was they confessed too early that they did it, and they apologized, and all was supposed to be good.
Hmm.
And in America, we didn't get any help from our government for 17 hours when we were out there all alone. They didn't send anybody over to help us.
Right.
They didn't even send a Piper Cub over to see how we were doing.
Didn't the Russians come alongside and offer us help at night?
Yeah, and they were denied.
Of course, we couldn't let them on, but at least they were there to help.
Yeah, they were there. They were the only ones that were there.
Yeah.
But Russian, I believe it was a trawler. It was a spy ship too.
Right.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of spying going on in the air, on the sea, and under the sea.
Well, when we'd go up and down the coast of Africa, we always had a ship somewhere inside of us, and we assumed it was Russian, or we knew it was Russian.
Yeah, they
They were
tailed us.
listening
They
to
always
us, and
tailed
I'm
us.
sure we were listening to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
So it wasn't unusual to have the ship like that.
No. Okay, I want you to take us back to when the USS America got there and USS Davis. They brought over some men to help shore up the bulkheads. They're like balloons. They're ready to burst.
Right.
And
Now
we
this,
worked and worked and worked on that.
unfortunately for me, I was in sick bay, passing out, waking up, passing out. So I don't know any of this, but what you guys have told me since then. You did tell me about the commandos wanting to come on board and stopping for some reason. I assumed it was finally we got a Mayday out stating that the attack was from Israel, and now the world knew that Israel was attacking us, so they had to stop. That's what I thought.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And they really didn't have to stop. They could have continued on and got by with it. I mean, they got by with doing it anyway.
Right.
Okay. Why do you think they got by with it?
Well, my personal feeling is I believe President Johnson was very pro-Israel support. And of course, back in the 60s, Israel wasn't getting a lot of financial support from the United States. It was a young country. It was only not even 20 years old when we got the attack.
See, we were attacked in 64 and they were founded in 48.
I'm sorry?
So they were founded in 1948.
Correct.
And they attacked, and we were hit in 1967.
We were attacked in 67. So that's just shy of 20 years. So it was a real young country. And I think Johnson wanted us to financially support Israel more than we were at the time. Why, I have no idea. I don't know enough. But my personal feeling is that by sinking the Liberty and blaming Egypt, Israel would have got unbelievable support of whatever they wanted to do at that time. And that's why we were attacked. We were supposed to be killed. None of us was supposed to survive, and Egypt, in my mind, would have been blamed.
Absolutely. That was the whole plan. And Johnson and Levi Eskol, the Prime Minister of Israel, cooked that up.
Correct.
To sink us, blame it on Egypt and sink us fast. They could have sunk us fast, but God was on our side.
That's the only reason why.
And he wouldn't allow it.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jesus Christ came to help us. Nobody else did. Johnson was a snake. He was a traitor, is a traitor, or will always be a traitor.
Right.
You know, what really bothers, I think, all of us survivors, ones who are still living, is our own country set us up to be slaughtered by a foreign government to get us into World War III. That was the whole plan. And even though they didn't sink us and they said, we're sorry and blah, 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 they got more money for murdering Americans on the high seas than they ever did in their entire existence.
Hmm.
And, you know, you think about JFK, he did not want Dimona. He did not want AIPAC. He wanted to sign up as a foreign agent type group, you know, instead of American Israeli.
Right.
They wanted it. They wanted it all, and we were the prize, but we spoiled them
Correct.
by staying afloat, staying alive. Now, okay, when they airlifted you off the Liberty to America, you remember that flight over?
I remember being hauled out on the main deck. I remember Lieutenant Golden and the captain came and told me that my guys had done good. We never lost electricity, they told me. And as they were pulling me into the helicopter, I remember the guy saying, we'll take one more after this one. And I was unconscious for 7 days. I did wake up 2 times, but nobody knew it. One time they were operating with a big needle, I think, on my lungs. I'm not sure what it was. They told me my lungs had collapsed. And there was this big, gigantic needle. They were doing something in my chest area. They didn't know I woke up. And then I did have the out of body experience where I was looking down while they were working on me.
Yeah, you were just a hair away from heaven.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember being in this tremendously big, dark room with a bright light way off in the corner in the distance. But the bright light never got any bigger or smaller than it was. It was just a small light in this big black room, except for the 2 times I woke up. And then when I
Okay.
woke up, I guess I was the last one to wake up, and they celebrated that everybody that made it to the Americas survived. They had a big party for everybody, of all of my shipmates and that were with me.
And they took a lot of men off that ship that were wounded, a hell of a lot worse than I was. The walking wounded. But you know, we're going to get into your story after I go through this a little bit of how you were treated and why. We were 2 days out at sea, headed to Malta, and Admiral Isaac Kidd came aboard, Ward Boston, and he got us in small groups. And we told him what happened. Why didn't you come help us? They shot the life rafts up. Everything we could think of, you know, we told him. He said, "I'd just like your dad, tell me anything, and we're going to get to the bottom of this." Little did I know he was ordered by LBJ to find the attack, mistaken identity, and Ward Boston and them both knew it was a deliberate, callous, vicious attack on a ship that had no defense at all. The only thing we had was our will and wits to live. It's the only thing that kept us going. But when he ordered us never to say anything, and he meant it to, he says, you'll end up in prison or worse. You know what worse means? I said, yes, sir, I do. And I took it very seriously. Believe me, I did. And we got into Malta, and then the repairs started. I think we were there 33 days, and they tried to make the ship look brand new. And it did. I mean, they got rid of all the evidence. We asked the captain, can't we just leave it battle scarred, get the hole fixed, and we'll take it back home that way? That wasn't to be. It wasn't to be. And they wanted it looking shiny when we got back, and it did. So they took away the severity of it. And we were to never talk to anybody, including our family members, or to be held to pay, and we all knew that. In fact, I didn't say anything about it for 18 years after that. Now, to get into your story, when you left the America, where'd they take you?
I went to Naples, Italy at the naval. It's a brand new naval hospital at the time. And they put us on the top floor. At the time, I didn't know it, but later on I found out is they could control whoever came into that ward. Nobody could get in there if they didn't want them. So I had no restrictions about talking about the Liberty to anybody. Of course, I'm still fighting for my life. I went from 160 pounds to 75 before I got back to the States. So that's giving you an idea how seriously I was injured. And when I was in Naples, I think about a month and a half. and then they transferred me to the Army hospital in Germany. And I get there. It took a whole day to get there. I remember flying on a flag tail dragger, a DC-3, I think they called it, to get to Germany. And then when I got there, they put me in a ward with a bunch of Vietnam veterans. There had to be 15, 20 beds, maybe 12 to 15 of them had veterans in them. And they put me on a bed and took the gurney away. And within 5 minutes, they come and get me, put me on a gurney, took me to a private room. Some officer, I think he was Army, but he could have been Air Force, but I think it was Army, told me my name was Smith. And if anybody asked me about the Liberty, I know nothing. That was my orders. That's the only restriction I got of not talking to about the Liberty. And of course, at that time, I still didn't know that there was a cover-up going on. At that time, I'm not even sure that I knew Israel was one that attacked us.
Well, how could you know, all you saw was the unmarked jet aircraft, and there was 30 sorties. They flew at least 30 sorties over our ship.
Okay.
As you said, from bow to stern, from stern to bow, from port to starboard, from starboard to port, everywhere they could hit. Of course, they dropped napalm on the bridge, and that was another real mess. I went up there and tried to put it out. All I had was CO2 because the hoses were shot up.
Right.
We didn't have any way to fight the fires. But napalm and a canister of CO2 wasn't going to do any good, so it just burned itself out. That's the only thing it could do. But the old man was up there, and he was in his leg, and I said, Captain, I have to go down and try to get some more CO2 and see what I can do. And he says, fine. And I stopped looking at Brownie, our helmsman. Everybody called him Brownie. Nice kid, good pool shooter. Him and I used to go over and drink beer and shoot pool together. And really nice guy. I mean, he was just super good and a squared away sailor. But when I got back up there, he was dead. You know, blood all over the deck. And I'll never forget that. You know, we just locked eyes when I saw him before he died. And we never said a word to each other. But I know we just shook our heads. And when I come back, he was gone. But it was that way all through the ship. You know, you didn't know who was going to get it next. You know, was it going to be me? You know, I got shrapnel, but nothing like you guys got. Thank God I could still operate at full speed. And to see all those guys down there, Mickey, shot up like you were, it was heartbreaking. And all night that went on. And I helped in an operation with Gary Blanchard, Doc Kiefer. I was holding a battle liner so I could cut him open. And you know, he asked me, he says, well, first of all, he said, will you take my socks off and rub my feet? And I did that, get some circulation into him. And I went over to his side, and he says, you think I'm going to live? And I said, man, I don't think you are. I always felt bad about that. But people have told me throughout my life, if that would happen to them, they'd want to know what my thoughts were. And just as soon as Doc cut him open, he was dead. Put a couple of stitches in him, and that went on all night, trying to repair people, broken limbs, head wounds. Well, you know how it was. Well, I guess you were in and out of it, but it was terrible.
Right.
All the wounds these people took, and it's something you never forget, never ever forget. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, so people don't forget, and they can get the word from other survivors and things like that. But you know, that's the joy about social media. You know, we got on the map. Not one president has come in to help us. Not one Congress. 2/3 of Congress are already bought and paid for by the Zionist state, AIPAC. AIPAC's got control of all of them.
What I remember is I just finished telling you that they had ordered me not to talk about the Liberty to anybody.
Okay.
And for me, I thought that just meant while I was in that hospital. I never thought that I couldn't talk about it after that. I just thought that was while I was in the hospital. But of course, I never wanted to talk about it because I never really admitted that I was ever wounded.
Yeah, right. When did you get out of the Navy?
Well, I ended up getting discharged on the 3rd of January, 1964, a month and a day before my 4 years would have been up.
See, that was in 67, right?
That'd be 68, January 68.
Okay, you got out. I got out December the 12th.
They gave me a medical discharge, and at that time I was 100% disabled for 5 years.
How about now?
Now I'm back to being 100%, but it's the unemployable one. And, my problem is 5 years later they brought me down to Bethesda and they reevaluated me. And of course, being a young innocent, thinking that the country wouldn't do nothing but take care of me, I trusted them. But they knocked me down to 70% disabled at the time because I had lost a portion of my intestines, my large intestine. It had turned gangrene. I have 2 drop feet, meaning as I'm walking, my foot slaps down. And my left one's a lot worse than the right one. I still have 52 pieces of shrapnel, and they thought it was worth 70%. But at that time, I felt like I was really in good physical condition, that I was okay. So I went along with it. No big deal. But I didn't know at the time that, like now that I'm 80 years old, I got a lot of problems happening. And a lot of it's from the injuries, and probably some of the pieces of shrapnel have moved and are touching things now. So I personally feel I should have never agreed to go 70% disabled. If you take all my disabilities they've given me, now my PTSD never bothered me till about 80, 85, 86, 87 when the USS Stock was hit with that rocket. I can't remember if it was from Iraq or Iran. When that happened, my PTSD lit off, and the Liberty came back to me unbelievably strong. And luckily for me, within a couple of years, I did get into counseling through the Vietnam Vet Centers at the time. And I wasn't allowed to get into it, but luckily my counselor somehow got the Vietnam era to approve me to become part of their group, which really ended up helping me a lot. My personal feeling was the only people that could feel what I'm feeling were you guys, my shipmates, because you're the only one that knows what we went through. These Vietnam veterans, in my mind, were a lot more traumatized than we were, being an ignorant person at the time, by the way. We only had 2 hours of hell in my mind. That's the way I looked at it. It was only 2 hours. I didn't think about the 5 years it took me to get healthy again, where I could actually go back to work and do things. I kept making it hours less than what a Vietnam veteran went through. But a couple of years ago, I'm still in veterans groups here on the East Coast down in Florida. Matter of fact, I still meet when I'm in Florida every week. I meet with a bunch of Vietnam veterans and a couple of Gulf War veterans. And one of the Vietnam veterans, in one of the meetings, I was making the Liberty not as bad of an attack as what they went through the whole year they were there. And one of these Vietnam veterans just got so upset. He yelled at me, "Mickey, shut the F up. God, you got to realize that your 2 hours of hell was worse than my whole year in Vietnam." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." I says, he says, "You guys, all you could do was take whatever they gave you. In Vietnam, I could hide behind a rock. I could shoot back at the bastard that was shooting me. You guys couldn't do anything to defend yourself. You took the abuse for 2 friggin' hours. And then your country didn't even come to help you for 17. He says, your trauma is so much worse than any of the Vietnam that I've ever experienced." And I go, wow, thank you for making me realize how really bad what we went through. We were totally given up by our country. I'm not mad at Israel. Israel did it to help Israel whatever they could. They thought it was what it was. What bothers me, and has always bothered me, is Johnson not letting those planes come to our aid. Those planes, the first planes had come, I'd have been hurt just as bad. We'd have lost 7 men. That would have been it. They would have never gotten into a fight with with a U.S. country plane coming to our aid. Israel would have backed off. That would have been it. But Johnson wanted 200. That's the only reason he called the planes back. There's no treaty. When we joined the military, I was under the belief that if some country assaults me, the United States will back me up 100%. Well, we get attacked and they don't do diddly. Talk about a disappointment of a country. I'm sorry I got so emotional here.
No, man, you deserve to be emotional. Well, but the disappointment doesn't stop with LBJ. It's every Congress, it's every president, it's all the way up to Trump. And they want this story. They probably wish we were all dead. I bet they do. So we just go away.
That's right. We're thorn in their side. They can't pluck it.
And no, they can't. And they're just waiting for us all to die out. And, we lost, 3 or 4 guys in the last 6 months.
Correct.
So, I went to Ron Kugel's funeral, and that was a tough one. And, his whole family was devastated. I mean, as they well should be. But Ron had a lot of back pain, things like that. He was in charge of body recovery and identification, which was no fun.
He had you guys all had bad jaws, but his was one of the worst. It had to be unbelievable for that.
But yeah, and the CTs were the only ones allowed to go down in there.
Correct.
and get those pieces out of there. And I've heard a lot of stories, and yeah, I wouldn't want to done it. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that, but they did. And in fact, he had nightmares all the time, and I don't know if you still have nightmares or not, or if that's past, or how it works out for you. But okay, you go into the Vietnam Vet Center, and you think you're getting better. Okay, when do you go back to work?
Well, I started working, let's see, it had to be 9 probably. As I look back again, what eventually happened is I went from the Germany hospital to a naval hospital just north of Boston, and got there in December, early December. One of the amazing things is when I was injured on my right arm, there was a wound here, and they think it nicked my radial nerve and killed my right hand. All my right hand could do was just hang like that. I couldn't even do this when I was in Naples. And the doctor was Captain Howard. And for some reason, he's the only doctor I remember through my whole trip. Got transferred to the same hospital from Naples to a hospital in north of Boston. And he came in and I could lift my hand, but I couldn't close it and shake his hand. But he was amazed. He thought I'd have to have 6 or 7 operations just to get a little part of it back. But I got it all back without any operations. His hand somewhat, and he was amazed. It was really something to see him look at me and go, man, you're getting better. But then but anyhow, they never gave me any therapy for my legs or my hands or anything. So I went to work for Singer sewing machines, repairing sewing machines to work on getting my hand back. And it ended up helping. And then I went to a trade school to learn how to repair TVs, and ended up being a partner in a TV repair ship in Massachusetts. And in 1979, I had a headhunter come look for me to go to work for an electron optics company. They sold electron microscopes that could magnify images to unbelievable sizes in that. And I worked there for 25 years, retired on my 25th year. It was the best job I could ever have as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's one good thing you got out of it. It was a
Yep.
decent job. You remember coming to visit me in Colorado? What year was it? That was in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was with that company. I was in that area. I think I was working at the forensic lab at the Denver police.
Okay. Yeah. 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 But it was nice to seeing you. It really was. I had several guys come work for me when I had the business of property management. Tom Riley
Mhm.
and Terry Haldebardier. Those guys were messed up in the head, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's affected us all in different ways. But how about your kids? How's it affected your family?
Well, evidently, talking to him in the last 5 years or so, we never talked much about it. And matter of fact, I spoken to my niece just the other day, and she goes, Uncle Mickey, I don't remember you ever talking about the Liberty at all. I knew nothing about it until you sent me one of the interviews you did. And that was just a couple of years ago. So I'm assuming I was like a lot of World War II veterans. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want to remember it. I want to forget it. But of course we can't. It's something there. I know a plane flies over low and all of a sudden I'll be thinking of the Liberty. Luckily, I found a patch that I wear, and it's really helped my PTSD. I could not stand fireworks for 50 years. I just hated them. And I put this patch on. It's calmed down my PTSD, and fireworks could happen, and I don't even phase anymore. It's an incredible patch.
Interesting. But the VA puts you on that?
No, my wife found it, luckily, through some of her researches, and it's been amazing. If I don't take this patch, I got a pain down my leg, my left side, that I can't even stand up. And put this patch on within 5 minutes, the pain's gone. I'm normal.
LifeWave, and they can contact me.
LifeWave is the name of the company that makes the patch, and they can contact my wife if anybody's interested in it. But it's been very, very good for me. The problem is it does cost $100 a month. Your patch a day for 30 days is $100, so it's $3.33 a piece. But it's helped me tremendously. Yeah,
Okay.
for me, the patch has been incredible. It's well worth $100 a month for me to help me with my pain and with this PTSD in particular. It's helped me in other things too. But all it is a little tiny patch, about that big, maybe a little over an inch in diameter. The patch itself is smaller, and I just tap it on my leg somewhere, and my PTSD is calmed down. Matter of fact, Phil, last summer, not this summer here coming, last spring, 2 A-10s flew over my house at treetop level, and I started to get to be back on the ship again, a big flashback. but it went right away. And I think the patch stopped it.
Right. Yeah. I know in my case, if a car backfired or anything like that, I'd duck. It was just it's just an instant reflex. And it took me back to back then, but we're all getting older, but
Right.
we're lucky to still be living. No doubt about that. I mean, even you're 80 and I'll soon be 80 in a year and a half. But if I make it that long, I hope I do.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your feelings, to kind of wrap up? What would you like to say to the people out there?
I just wish the American people would stop defending what happened to us, to the Israels. Every once in a while I'll be talking to somebody. Oh, the planes were 2,000 feet, 1,000 feet above you. And I'll tell them, no, I saw a plane. It was 50 feet above me. That's all. Why can't they believe what we're telling them? Why are they so set on defending Israel and not accepting the truth? That's my biggest problem right now. The average person. Most of them don't seem to care when I tell them about it. But yet I'll get some other person. Oh man, let's go get a drink. Let's go get some coffee. Let me buy you lunch. Tell me what happened to you on that day. I get those people, which are great because they really want to know what happened. But a lot of times it's the people just veterans. My ship was attacked. 34 Americans died that day. Oh, okay. Then they'll continue playing golf or something. Why don't these people care? How can I get them to say, hey, wait a second. All these Americans were killed that day, and how many have died because of it?
Absolutely.
And
Well,
they're we're brothers. Nobody's closer than the Liberty crew.
No, you and I are pretty tight, buddy. We are brothers.
You're everything to me.
I know it's a hard thing to get over. I don't think we'll ever get over it, but you can say what you want to. But yeah, go ahead and you were talking about people, veterans even, that don't believe you or don't care.
Right.
And it happened 58 years ago. Well, World War II happened 80 years ago.
Right.
And Vietnam, Korea.
Mm-hmm.
All those Gulf wars were all fought for the benefit of the greater Israel. We got in Iraq because Bush listened to Netanyahu, and he said they got WMDs. They didn't have anything.
Right.
All those people went to war for what? All the civilians were killed by that shock and awe. I'm sure you remember that shock and awe. We're going to go give it to them, and they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, man. Wrong.
Yeah.
And the whole Middle East. Well, look what's going on now with Gaza. I mean, it's even hard to think about the suffering that's going on. The land they didn't get in 1967, they're taking now.
Correct.
If our ship goes down, they've already taken it all then.
Right.
Yeah, they've got it all. So, is there any parting words you want to say to the people out there?
Just want America to know what we're telling is the truth of that day. And there's no way in the world did Israel make a mistake and think we were anything but a U.S. ship. That whole plan was to kill 294 Americans and sink the ship. So Egypt would have been blamed. That's all. And that's the truth.
Yep. Yeah, it is the truth. And thank God we didn't sink, because we're here talking about it and telling the truth. And
if we had sunk, the world would have changed. Probably would have been.
Yeah, the whole world would change. Yeah, it would have changed.
Yeah. The Liberty saved the world, but no one appreciates it.
Yep, because the atomic bombs were on their way.
They were.
They were. Well, God bless you, Mickey. And thank you for, love you too, brother. And thanks for being on the maiden voyage here for this show. Okay, I'll catch up with you later.
Okay, kiddo.
I will.
Have a good one.
Thanks a lot, Mickey. You bet.